Hi, I'm John, and welcome back to Dice Paper Miniatures. In this episode, I kick off a new series I'm working on that's featuring each of the 18 legions that players can play in the upcoming Warhammer the Horus Heresy. Now, the framework I'm using for this series is basically looking at what the Warhammer community is presenting in each of these 18 articles. The lore, the general look and feel of the legion, and of course, its rule mechanics that they're willing to tease at this point. And then maybe down the road, I might have a follow-up as to how accurate I think that these articles presented each of the individual legions. But that would be a series for another time. All right, so again, that's the premises or framework for this series. I'm really excited to get started. And in this particular episode, we're going to feature the Emperor's Children. All right, let's go ahead and begin. So yeah, in this one, we're looking at the Emperor's Children. No one's perfect except the Emperor's Children. So for those that haven't seen the other Legion videos I've done, I'm basically taking this week lead up before the pre-order hits this coming Saturday to kind of do a review of those initial previews we saw for each Legion, especially as a new player or even a returning player that hasn't really been into 40K for a while and definitely wasn't into the previous Horus Heresy edition. I'm approaching these articles as kind of basically a noob, or trying to, at the very least. Just allowing myself to kind of judge which Legion I want to play based on the content within these articles. Yeah, I may have a little bit of extra knowledge from the actual novels, but, whatever. The plan is just to kind of just focus on what they're saying in the articles, because really, these articles are a little bit of lore, but they're mostly a rules preview. So, with that said, let's go ahead and keep going. Do you strive for perfection in all things? Are your edge highlights so fine that they cause onlookers to swoon in awe? Are you a fan of meticulous battle tactics but wish to leave room for a little theater? Is it not enough to win? You want to look good doing it too? If you answered yes to one or more of these questions, then the Emperor's Children are ready to welcome you. Well, okay then. Great looking art, and even more fanciful, arguably, than the Dark Angels that we just previously, that I previously did a video on, but maybe you saw a different one before this one. But that was mostly like black and silver with some gold, but this is pretty much just purple and gold. Drawn from Terra's most aristocratic households, the Third Legion's impeccable table manners made them ideal envoys for the Great Crusade. It takes a lot to outshine Custodes, but these Astartes even served as standard bearers for the Emperor himself. And after sacrificing themselves to protect the Master of Mankind during a devious assassination attempt, they earned the rare honor of bearing his personal sigil, the Palatine Aquila. Sadly, the glory days weren't to last. The Emperor's Children were struck by a gene seed blight that withered the Legion to a fraction of its strength. Fortunately, the surviving members realized that 100 warriors could match 1,000 warriors, so long as each of them was 10 times as good. While some might suggest that pride goeth before destruction, they were probably just jealous of the Legion's hard-earned individual superiority. Yeah, again, not trying to bring what I know about what this Legion turns into in the 40K setting, and to, obviously to some extent what happens to them in the lore within the Horus Heresy itself. I don't think I'm personally drawn to this Legion visually, not my aesthetic, but I want to see what their previewed rule sets look like. Where many of the Legiones Astartes specialize in one form of combat, the Emperor's Children strove for perfection on all fronts. On and off the battlefield, these gilded warriors executed meticulously planned strategies that used their finely honed skills to maximum effect, and delivered more than a little of that old razzle-dazzle in the process. When all went to plan, the Emperor's Children could easily take on many times their number without a hitch. Even if things went awry, the Legion could still be carried to success by the individual excellence of its warriors and the devoted faith they put in their leaders. In the new edition of Warhammer, the Horus Heresy, these exquisite killing blows manifest through the flawless execution of spectacular charges that defy the expected order of combat, wiping out your foe before they can even respond. You might also notice their ranks are extremely good at pulling off a deadly reaction. More on those abilities later. All right, so let's see what this flawless execution looks like. On a turn in which they make a successful charge, even if that charge is considered a disordered charge, models with the Legiones Astartes, Emperor's Children, special rule make their attacks in an assault at one initiative step higher than normal, after any initiative modifiers from other special rules have taken into account. That's cool. Models with the Legiones Astartes, Emperor's Children special rule, and the vehicle unit type gain a bonus of +1 to all the hit rolls made for defensive weapons when making a shooting attack as part of a reaction. That's pretty cool too. Even on the rare occasions you find yourself losing a fight, you can still rely on your inspiring warlord traits to see you through. With a rousing speech and a reminder not to embarrass him in front of the enemy, an Emperor's Children warlord can become a paragon of excellence and encourage his followers to the heights of perfection that their Primarch demands. All right, so Paragon of Excellence. When any friendly unit within 12 inches of a warlord with this trait, including the warlord and any unit it has joined, passes a morale check, it gains +1 weapon skill until the end of the controlling player's next turn. This benefit can only be applied once per game turn to any single unit. Okay. In addition, an army whose warlord has this trait may make an additional reaction during the opposing player's movement phase as long as the warlord has not been removed as a casualty. Yeah, so definitely some kind of finesse maneuvers for this particular legion. And then the master of finesse himself, we have their Primarch, Fulgrim from the homeworld of Chemos. It's a neat looking model, I'll give it that. Again, I'm not a fan of the purple, but that really shouldn't be a reason not to consider this legion if you dig the other aesthetics, and definitely if you think the rules give you kind of a competitive edge, so to speak. Like his scattered brethren, the infant Fulgrim found himself on an unfamiliar planet. Chemos had sacrificed art and leisure on the altar of industry, its people forced to work without rest merely to scrape through the slow decay of their world. The young Fulgrim was taken in, against the wishes of the planet's gray-suited ruling executives, and turned all of this around in short order thanks to his transhuman brilliance. When his ravaged legion arrived, they found a paradise of culture and beauty, reborn from ashes. Small wonder their Primarch was referred to as the Phoenician. Fulgrim is an aesthete who appreciates elegance in both the arts and combat. With fine bones, ash-white hair, and violet eyes sparkling with delight, he is easily the most beautiful of the Primarchs, regardless of what the Blood Angels claim. Fulgrim's charisma quickly won over Horus, and he even built relationships with notoriously moody Primarchs like Perturabo and Conrad Kurz. More surprisingly, he struck up a legendary friendship with Ferrus Manus over a shared love of craftsmanship. In a symbolic gesture of true bromance, they forged each other's magnificent weapons. Fulgrim received the sword Fireblade, whilst Ferrus was gifted Forge Breaker. Cool art. Alongside Fulgrim, the Emperor's Children took pride in keeping pace with legions twice their size, celebrating every victory with some truly off-the-hook parties. It was a quest for excellence that both elevated them beyond lesser Astartes, improved their undoing. A poetic fate for such perfectionist souls. During the Great Crusade, Fulgrim took on the Lair, a civilization of serpentine creatures that messed around with the deepest depths of genetic meddling. Hungry to push his legion beyond their already extreme limits, he gave the okay for Chief Apothecary Fabius Bile to mess around with the Emperor's handiwork. To some, this would be heresy, but to Fulgrim and friends, it was simply honing on already great work to even greater heights. Gotta admit, though, that purple on that Mark VI armor with the gold trim, that does look pretty sweet. Yet, that wasn't the worst thing Fulgrim picked up from the Lair. As the Third Legion massacred the snake-like Xenos, they came across a beautiful temple, and within, a fabulous sword that caught Fulgrim's eye. The Emperor's Children were used to claiming exquisite trophies from each victory, but unbeknownst to them, this temple was dedicated to Slanesh. For those of you unfamiliar, that's one of the Chaos Gods. And that's a pretty cool, I would argue, somewhat well-known image of Horus and Fulgrim himself. Really, really like that piece of art as well. So the demonic influence lurking within the sword began to stroke the Primarch's already inflated ego. Soon he found himself looking down on his former friends. Soon his legion's penchant for perfection became an obsession. Soon, no victory was satisfying, no celebration was sufficient. His officers engaged in sordid feasts and vicious duels. His soldiers sought new century heights, and the Legion's artists got really expressionistic. Yeah, that's one way of putting it. On Isstvan 5, Fulgrim planted his flag firmly on Team Horus while wiping off his old BFF's head. Yeah, friendship ended with Ferrus Manus. Now the Blade of Lair is my best friend. Okay. The Phoenician would eventually ascend to become a demon prince, the mightiest courtier to the Prince of Pleasure. He now has not one, not two, but 3 swords and a whip. Also, he's a massive snake now. Oof. And Ferrus wasn't the last Primarch he laid low. His legion ran amok through the galaxy during the final days of the heresy, but their self-obsession saw them blow off the War Master's orders during the siege of Terra. Why make war when you can have fun? All those civilians seem to agree. Just listen to them screaming for joy. They now roam the galaxy in search of new sensations, like wandering troubadours who play music for their keep, and to explode their enemies' insides. Yeah. Totally normal. Totally normal. So for the Legion lore, you can learn all about the descent of the 3rd Legion in Fulgrim, which covers in detail the events of the Lair campaign and the depravity that followed. You know, they keep showing images of Leviathans. It would be nice if you could buy one, at least a generic one on Forge World. Right now, at the making of this video, I was looking at the Leviathans, and all that's available right now were Dark Angel Leviathans, Night Lord Leviathans, and I believe Blood Angels, and the White Scars was temporarily out of stock. So if you weren't into those, they didn't have just like a generic Leviathan right now. So I'm hoping that means that's because a plastic kit is coming. I hope. To see the Emperor's Children in action during the Great Crusade, you can check out Fulgrim, the Palatine Phoenix, which shows him pridefully attempt to conquer a world using just 7 soldiers. To find out exactly how Fulgrim transcended his mortal form and become a towering demon prince, you'll need to read Angel Exterminatus, where the Phoenician himself creates an intricate plot involving an Eldari legend and his brother Perturabo. And then they go on with another painting video as well. So I think so far, if I had to choose between the Dark Angels, just in terms of mechanics, Dark Angels or the Emperor's Children, I would lean towards the Emperor's Children right now. Again, it's a little difficult to say because we don't know what those wing subtypes were, not all of them, for Dark Angels. So again, I think that one might be better in terms of once you really get a handle on the rules, it probably has a higher skill cap. So possibly in the hands of those types of players, it could really that particular legion could really excel. But I think as far as new player friendliness, this is probably a little bit more new player friendly. So in regards to like out of 1 to 5 stars, this is probably in that 3.5 as well, maybe up to a 4, just for different reasons, of course. I think it's easier for a new player, but maybe the cap isn't as high or the ceiling isn't as high. So there's that, where I think with the Dark Angels, the floor is probably really low, but the ceiling's definitely pretty high, and it kind of nets out to be a similar result. But that's all I have for this one. If you've enjoyed this content and you haven't yet, please consider subscribing, hitting that notification bell, and sharing this content with your friends. It really does help with the growth of the channel, and it's greatly appreciated. Also, stay tuned because I am doing multiple Legion reviews from the Warhammer Community articles leading up to this pre-order that's coming up this Saturday for the Horus Heresy. So with that said, I hope you're all doing well, be safe, take care, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye-bye.